strong, empowered, authentic.
What's up, Ginger Nation? This is Tosh.
This is Darren, and you are listening to the Authentic
Ginger Podcast. Welcome to the Authentic Ginger Podcast. I'm Tosh Taylor.
And I'm Darren Roach, and this is the first show of the new year, Tosh. I'm really excited. I know it's near the end of January, but what the heck? We have to start at some point. Why not today? On today's show, we have a comedian and musician, which I'm really curious to see how those intermix with the band. So he's with a band called Elastic Stars. I hope that's correct. Please welcome to the show, Colin Cowan. Colin, what's up, man? How's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Did I get the name right?
Colin Cowan.
From Elastic Stars?
Elastic Stars, yeah, and the bigger band I play in is Destroyer.
Destroyer. Okay, I didn't find that, but I'm glad you put that out there because we got to promote all of that.
Yeah.
Right, Tosh?
We do.
Elastic Stars is my band, so you can promote that one all you want. You're not moving down notches in my books.
What do you
start.
play, Colin?
Me? I play it all. Well, in Elastic Stars, I do everything on the records, and then I got a live band. But I play all the instruments and all the parts, at least 99% of the parts on the records. And then when I play in other bands, like Destroyer does really well. They've been around for a long time. People bring me on to play bass.
Okay.
So I usually play bass and then electronics, and usually doing something with my feet and my mouth, usually like singing and playing synthesizers with my feet or something. I usually kind of use my whole body.
Jeez. All of it.
You got cymbals attached to your knees, kind of thing.
That's it. You know,
Let's get into this. This could be very interesting.
One man band.
One man band. I like it. So, Colin, we always start off the show by asking you about growing up as a redhead. And just off the mic, we realized that you are from the town I live in right now, and you actually grew up with my husband. So that's kind of neat.
Cat's out of the bag. Yeah.
The cat's out of the bag. But that means I also do know that growing up in Riverview, New Brunswick, for a lot of people, wasn't easy. So especially in the 90s.
No.
So, how did it work as a redhead on top of being the funny guy?
Well, you had to definitely had to make your way. You had to make sure you had a creative way to avoid ending up participating in any seances. That's for sure. I mean, I always knew how to make people laugh, at least. So that was a good way to dodge. You know what I mean? I could make fun of myself and make fun of somebody in the same breath, and also do it creatively and get a laugh. But, in general, I had every nickname in the book thrown at me. You know what I mean? Carrot Top, Redhead, Hothead, Fire Crotch, Ginger.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, wait a second. I have to go back here for a second. So that's interesting. Okay, so this has happened to you, okay, right? We're getting into it already. You're funny. You knew you were funny from a young age, but did your red hair spawn that comedic side of you to say, let's deflect?
Well, I mean, because it started at such a young age for me, making people laugh. Like, I was definitely a fixture to my mother's leg until I decided, realized I could make people laugh, hiding underneath behind my mother's leg. But I'm the only redhead in the family. And that's like all my cousins, everybody. Besides some distant cousins of my mother's, I'm the only one like this. Everybody else is dark and handsome. And so I also was learning at a very young age that I had to have something to say, because everybody always noted, especially from the moment they first met me to getting to know me to going, that hair. The hair was always a subject of conversation. Right. Growing up, it was like, whether it was jest or people, being nice to me or something like that, it was always a subject of conversation. The redhead, you know what I mean?
Right. What age was this?
Everyone's at the beach, Oh, Colin, come on back. Get the sunscreen on. Come on. I'm fine. I've already got 4 layers of sunscreen on, It's 80 proof or whatever. SPF 80. Yeah, good thing it's not 80 proof. Yeah.
Yeah.
At night.
Yeah, listen, we've all been sunburned, though, and it hurts.
That's it. And, I'm pretty good in the sun still, but even all my black friends today are like, every time I go, they're like, Jesus, you must hate the sun. I'm like, every summer we go through this.
Yeah.
I love the sun. I actually
still don't hate it.
I still don't hate it. I surf, I sunbathe. But yeah, you're right. Once a year, I definitely always get that freak burn, that imprint of a hand on your chest, or a book.
Beer bottle, whatever you want.
Beer bottle. Yeah, beer bottle and a novel.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds like my kind of day, actually.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Sounds pretty good. We have always talked about on this show how redheads are kind of always like the comic relief, or court jesters back in the day tended to be redheads, or they put red wigs on them. And I think that's why right from the get-go you're pointed out. People notice you literally from the second you're born. They notice you, so it's kind of a fight or flight response. I think. Yeah.
Oh, I would definitely say so. Yeah, I think there are also people are unsure whether or not you're a premonition of some sort. They do give you that double take, like vampire or human. But no, yeah, exactly. Yeah, people always give that double take. I mean, there is that thing of exactly like I think there's also that what I've understood is everybody kind of wonders, entertaining, humorous, or like temper. I think people aren't sure, it's very funny that temper comes along with it. My theory has always been redheads aren't temperamental. They're just once like anybody else, just after a certain amount of nicknames or teasing, they just combust.
Yeah. There's only so much we can take.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what that is. I guess, I mean, if you look in a lot of old history books and a lot of old stories and illustrations, you do often see like a redhead as being, like you say, some nominal creature, especially as female. Even if you look at a lot of the old paintings, a lot of the old like Christian churches throughout Europe, these people that are painted as redheads are quite prominent as either like top of the chain or bottom of the chain. And there's a lot of history when you look at it too. Like I was reading recently, like Roman slave, when redheads were slaves of Romans, they were considered good luck. But when redheads were slaves of Egyptians, they were buried alive because they were considered very bad luck. Everybody kind of perceived us differently,
Yeah. What would be the middle?
Right?
Yeah, the middle. Yeah, exactly. Middle, I guess. Kitchen hand.
Yeah, I'll be a kitchen wench any day.
Me too. Me too. Big time. Amen to that.
Good heavens! What and again, age bracket around this particular topic that we're talking about right now in your history. Are we talking 12, 15? Are we talking teenager? Are we talking a little bit younger, a little bit older?
Me, when I started getting all this stuff?
Yeah, like when it all started coming through.
Oh, started at the age of 5.
Young. Okay.
Yeah, and I've got pretty clear memories of being a child too. Probably just because I was always making sure I was looking out to see if anybody was going to tar and feather me or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? I had to really keep that peripheral up. But
yeah, did you do any? Sorry to interrupt. Did you do any? I guess what do we call them here? Not talent shows, but when you go up in front of your junior high class,
sure.
I don't know what they call them.
Variety shows, talent shows.
Whatever it is. Yeah. Did you do comedy at that point? Like, or were you playing music?
Yeah. I did all that shit. I would do comedy. I would have to do a character or do music, but usually a character, a sketch.
Okay.
And because I always did characters, and I still do them. Like I do a lot of stand up.
Right.
A lot more of that than usual these days. But I've always been known, even in my adult life, like because I used to be in Second City. I used to tour fringe comedy shows around Europe, do a bunch of stuff in the US. So I've always played extreme characters. Even my actor and comedian friends can't recognize me sometimes when I show up in character. So I started doing that at a pretty young age. That's cool. Doing a character or a sketch. I always found that was easy. And I think that also has always allowed me to appreciate being a redhead, because usually I'd play somebody that's not a redhead.
That was my question. Yeah. Have you ever dyed your hair for a gig?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I used to do it for Halloween, for costumes. I was always into costume. And I got into theater at a one point, I was in punk bands and all that. But then somebody was like, you should be in the theater. And I was like, the theater's lame. And then eventually I joined the theater and I was like, I'm home.
This is it.
And that was it. Yeah, exactly. I almost always ended up like, a dark hair, silver hair, or whatever, just anything, I was always all for it too, to hide myself, give myself black eyebrows, you know what I mean? See what that would feel like,
Right.
I got a lot
that
of
feel, by
characters.
the way?
It feels very weird.
Yeah.
I look ill immediately when I have any dark pepperings of hair on my face. Call the hospital.
Yeah. Quick.
I know, I totally get that. I had a very short-lived dyed my hair black phase that my mom very quickly stripped back out of my hair, because heaven forbid you ever do anything to this hair.
Of course,
as a
redheaded daughter, especially like teenager, that is how, like, a lot of redheads, I remember doing that, and I always kind of wanted to, but I knew I would literally like chop my mother's emotions down to size. She would not be able to handle that. I was like the only redhead, the golden boy.
I was going to say, do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah. I've got 3 brothers, and they're all dark hair, dark eyebrows, all that.
Do you think that you're the favorite because of your hair?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I refuse to ask for any proof.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to know the answer.
No.
I don't know. I mean, like I say, I'm zippy and I'm fun loving. So maybe it has more to do with that. But I think I've held the ranks pretty good, considering I've lived 6,500 kilometers away majority of my life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You're on the opposite coast. Yeah, I'm still not hated.
Yeah. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
This is true. This is true. I don't know if that works for a mom, but
yeah, no, she hates me.
So listen, I have to go back to this again too. You guys quickly briefed on Riverview being a sketchy part of town at one point, maybe in the 90s. Give me some examples of what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, sketchy doesn't mean like wrong side of the tracks. It means, they referred to it as Snob Hill. So I didn't grow up here. I only moved here like 20 years ago ish. So, but that's how it was, Colin? Like, I think.
Well, I would say there was parts of it that were Snob Hill, but there were parts of it that were the complete opposite too. Like, you kind of had a bit of both. I mean, it was just small town classic. In a lot of ways, it was a lot of small town cliches. You have people that like maybe like go to the golf club and have nicer cars, and you have very poverty stricken parts of New Brunswick's for a long time was the poorest province in Canada. Right. So, any place that looked poorer. But the other thing was in the 90s, because I've played in a lot of bands since I moved away from there. And, I used to live in California, Toronto. All these band friends of mine from the US and Canada who would end up in Moncton remember the skinhead era, when there was actually like neo-Nazis. And I had a lot of good friends when, like, say I was 14 or 15 who would fall into that just because they wouldn't really know what any of that meant at first. They was just like maybe their older brother's friends or whoever's. Nobody really knew what they were talking about. It's just the same reason why anybody in any other microculture around the world falls into a gang. But that was the issue. There was people going around and using racial slurs and actually starting to do the work of, skinheads. And I had friends who would get I could never do that because I was always a lover, man, not a hater. But I definitely had friends who would get sucked into that, who would see too much, see something really violent and get out of it. And I always remember like being kind of a go-to person because I always tried to talk to everybody because I was a freak. I was rejected. I was a redhead. You know what I mean? Better stay on everybody's good side. Otherwise they might bring out the guillotine, cast me a witch.
Yeah.
But also my mother just taught me to be that way. It's not just because I'm a redhead. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Get off your high red horses.
Yeah. I think,
but yeah, I felt like I often was like a go-to person after somebody would like leave that scenario and be like, I feel like I was lost, and sort of confide in me, like how they ended up in that scenario. And like I say, I knew a lot of people's like younger brothers and stuff who's maybe if they were a skinhead or in that sort of area, I would like know a younger brother and get a version of it, and then end up sort of knowing people, try to talk some sense into them. But I definitely not only remember how scared we were if there was something going down with that collective of neo-Nazis, but later on in life, as I said earlier, being reminded just from people who were like touring as punk bands in the 90s. We're just like, oh shit, watch out when we go to Moncton. Yeah.
it
was a thing.
Yeah.
Is, it's kind of funny to think about when you show up and you're just like, hey, we're going to the farmer's market on Monday or on Saturday. It's going to be great,
And we're going to go to Angie's later on that afternoon.
We
won't talk about that.
For anybody that's listening that is not a Maritimer, that is the strip club. So
is that still there?
It is.
Yep.
It is. You'll see it soon.
Went there.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
I don't think I will.
No.
I don't think I will see it soon.
So Colin is coming back home here soon because he's part of a really big festival that happens in New Brunswick, mostly southeastern New Brunswick. He's going to be coming home for the Hubcap Comedy Festival. And this is a really big show. Every year they go around and they scout people across the country to bring them here to the Moncton area. And you start here February 2nd, do you?
Yeah, February 2nd's first night. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
I'm doing 3 nights there. I think I'm doing 6 shows in total.
Yeah, I know. I was scrolling through your itinerary and I was like, oh my God, this poor guy is going to be exhausted.
Yeah, I've got a few friends coming from other places I saw on the roster and I was like, are they performing as much? I didn't see them on the... I thought everybody was like put to that, but like I said, they just probably want to make sure I'm actually human. Redhead. They're like, let's put him through the grinder, see if he dissipates.
He can stay up all night and do 60 shows. He's a ginger. They never lack energy.
That's it.
Yeah,
no, it's fine for me. I'm full-time dad. I've lived on tour buses around the world for the last 12 years, and when that isn't happening, when my daughter goes to sleep many nights a week, I go out. If I get the green card from my wife, I go do stand up, work, and then travel around doing that stuff overseas, locally, nationally, internationally. So
yeah, let's talk about that, shall we? Because I'd like to know how you have touched that you started with music, high school, kind of probably middle school, high school-ish. And I know that the music scene here was really big. I swear everybody I've ever met, it's like, yeah, I was in a band in high school.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So where did it go from that to theater to being in living in California, touring and stand up? How does it
It kind of all has always been slightly cohesive. In my mind, I was always like, one will always help the other. After high school, I got into Second City in Toronto, doing all the improv stuff there, but tried to meet musicians. Not too much luck. But then I eventually moved to Halifax, where I was writing a show for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then also playing in bands. And, moved to California, was playing in bands, but also in plays, doing comedy shows. I've always kind of done them all. When I went over to Europe, we had the Fringe Festival show that we did, but I was also doing some stand-up, some solo stuff, and then doing a bunch of music, doing a bunch of band stuff, recording a bunch. So I've always kind of done it. By the time I moved to Vancouver, I had a joke band. It was called the Gay Straights. We used to do Pride Festival and comedy festivals and everything in between. It was music for men by men. It was all very ambiguous music by 2 people who were straight. It always went off very well. And at that period of time, we eventually needed a studio. And because of that, I started another band. And then eventually I was just always doing comedy and bands, all constantly. Started teaching at a music academy, but I was also I started a venue called China Cloud Studios, which is, get this, both comedy and music equally. So it's none of that was really planned. It's just I've always had my fingers in both. So at one point I was playing in 35 bands and doing touring around the world. And every time I was back, I was like, okay, hit the ground running, back, auditions, television roles, voiceover roles, studio work, producing, all that jazz. So I've kind of always done it all,
35 bands.
Yeah.
At one time?
And that's not even a joke. No, at one time, some of them were less active during parts of the year, but throughout a year, I would be liable to collaborate with 35 of the bands I actually played in, and then maybe a handful of other things I would do studio sessions on or whatever, collaborate on a live show.
Wow.
Everything from bands from I collaborate with an orchestra from Taiwan to a free jazz band that plays Sun Ra, to an instrumental band that I composed for, to this rock band, this psych band, that folk band, this bluegrass band, and then this band Dan Mangan, and then joined Black Mountain. And then I was in Lightning Dust. We started this Mandata plan. I got Elastic Stars. Destroyer asked me to come in with him. Basha Boulay comes through town. I join her. Mary Margaret O'Hara, Catherine O'Hara's sister. Sometimes I collaborated with her because she's a good friend. Like, it just became more and more and more. And, as soon as I know one person, people be like, So hence the reason why comedy is so nice. Both stand-up, you can kind of hide into these little microcosms each night and just kind of be away from all that stuff with one single mic. If you're used to having equipment all around you all the time, sounds wonderful. But when you've traveled the world after a while, you're like, can't believe I'm flying with all this shit all the time. Like, maybe see you in Italy instruments, something so nice about doing that, just showing up with nothing but like a little book and, working the material. So yeah,
unbelievable.
But yeah, so I've always done them all and I still do them all. I've quit most of those bands just because, like I say, I focus more on Elastic Stars. I now make albums and short films with it. And this band Destroyer, we only tour every couple of years, but it's usually like a world tour on a tour bus, Europe, US, and then other scattered parts for festivals. So.
And in that time, you've managed to nail down a wife and have a kid. Like, I commend you. This is impressive.
Thanks.
Actually, I commend her. She's clearly a goddess.
She's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah, she really is. Yeah. Well, and she's a big surprise clinical counselor, and she's also a musician. She's an incredible singer, and she's does some studio stuff too. And
cool. She
plays in my live band, Elastic Stars. She plays bass in that band. But yeah, she's classical singer, all that stuff. So she's equally as exciting in a lot of ways. I just travel more. Yeah. So
unbelievable.
Yeah. And get this. My daughter is a redhead.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah. It happened. Yeah. Yeah.
You did it. You procreated.
That's it. We procreated. Everybody was like, imagine you had we didn't know what we were having. It was like, imagine you had a little redheaded girl, and everyone, I was like, don't count on it because I'm the only one in the family. Jen is not that, Jen is like, she's got Polish background, but she's Jewish. And then she has like some Israeli background and all that stuff. So
she's dark. Yeah.
Yeah. But she's in between. She's the fairer of her family. But we always joke that both of our dads in the summer look like these beautiful Cuban men. We're just like, how are these our parents? But we ended up having a little strawberry. Her name's Sienna, named her after the color.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. You're like, what a story, man. You've been around the world and back again 5 times, it sounds like.
I still haven't died.
I am jealous.
Somehow still alive.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't play any bands when you were coming through this area. Come on.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I tour everywhere, but it's so rare that I come out to the Maritimes, which is strange. I used to when I was touring with Dan Mangan for a couple of years, just because I was supposed to do like 2 backup shows with that guy, and then I ended up doing 215, I think.
Jeez.
That escalated
in 2 years.
Yeah.
1.5. Yeah. Dan's a good friend. It was never really my preferred style of music, but he's a very good friend, and those were really fun times. It was a blast to go travel around with him. I was 26, I think, at that point, so yeah, it was kind of really getting into the whole world tour thing.
Yeah, those are fun. Those are fun times to be touring around. We were doing the same thing around that time as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Carefree, no kids.
Well, that's it.
Similar story. My wife is with Jewish background, piano singer, songwriter, classically trained, the whole thing. And her and I were out touring for years, back in when she was in her 20s, I was in my 30s, but great time, no kids. Did I say that loud enough? No
did you mention
no
that?
Kids. Yeah. No kids. Jesus, I think he's spiraling.
Yeah.
He's got 3 of them. You can't blame him.
4.
There was a time I had no children.
Yeah.
Tell my story.
Oh man, you got it.
No, I know. Yeah,
you got it.
I mean, like I say, I'm so glad I did it when I did it, because I still tour a lot, but I don't have the desire to tour that many days a year. So it's like spread out through the year now. I try to do as much stuff as I can do locally, and then do just little periods of touring. Like when I go out to the Maritimes, I'll do that for a few days. I go to Toronto for like a week, do a whole bunch of shows there, and then I come back home, but 12 days to 2 weeks is very manageable.
Yeah.
So is New Brunswick the only place you're going? Are you ever venturing down to where I am in Nova Scotia this trip?
Because it's so tight, and I almost did a production gig down while I was there, just a role in somebody's scheming up, some pilot thing. I didn't end up booking any more for Nova Scotia, so I'm just going to do Moncton, and then I go to Toronto right after that. I fly there.
Nice.
And, I'm doing like Wednesday to Sunday there, and then at Comedy Bar, and then a few other clubs, and then that's it. Then I'm going to come back because I was just out in November, and I was out in Toronto in November for a similar thing, and then some stuff around there, and I was touring all last year. I was when I was off the tour bus, I was doing stand up. So I'm just doing this little one. I'm preparing to do a album and a special at the end of the year. So I'm just doing little pods, coming back, working at the little clubs locally just to refine things.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your comedy work online?
Only a little bit of it, only because I stopped doing stand up for a number of years. And I really wanted to work on a show. So I only tease little bits on my Instagram. There's a little bit on YouTube, but I'm trying not to put much. I'm going to be putting a lot out in the next month and a half, 2 months. But there's only little teases of sets right now. Yeah.
Great.
I took a bunch of stuff down because I was like, just wanted to get most of the new stuff out. So.
Mm-hmm. Did you find with you touring the world, did you ever find any like really weird reactions to your hair?
My hair?
Yeah.
I mean, not weird, but weird to me when I've been in places for the first time. Like my favorite, the most beautiful nickname for a redhead or the color red hair in the world are the Spanish. So both in Mexico and Spain. The first time I was really noted for it in Madrid, I remember a group of friends of a bandmate had called me Cinnamon Fantasy.
I love that.
I ended up writing a song. There's a music video for it and all that stuff online. But Cinnamon Fantasy is. She goes. You have such an interesting. What did she say? She said, such an exotic look. You are like a cinnamon fantasy. And I was like, that is incredible. I told her
was the stash on at the time?
Oh, yeah. I had the stash.
Yeah.
My hair was down to here. I was often wearing rose-colored glasses.
Oh, perfect.
I still do sometimes, but Anyway, so she called me Cinnamon Fantasy. And then I learned later on that redheads are known as like canela in Spanish, which is just cinnamon, right? So it's actually kind of the nicest.
Seriously.
Association.
That's cool.
Yeah, canela. It's actually closer than when you look at ginger's. I'm starting to sound like Trump. Frankly, when you look at ginger, it's not even the same color. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Oh no!
I committed to the gestures.
Trump's gone rogue.
that off rhythm hand gesture of Trump. It'll just pull your whole, pull down. You're tired. Frankly, it's a big problem. Canela is. I mean, because when you look at ginger, it's gold. It's not the color of this. It's like
actually,
yellow.
Your hair color is gold. I've been looking at it and going, I'm kind of trying to figure out what kind of shade of ginger, what 50 shade are you? They
call me,
right?
They call me strawberry. That's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and I spend a lot of time in this. Like I'm always in the sun, even in the dead of winter in Vancouver when everywhere is gray. If I can see like 5 kilometers that way, there's a spotlight of sun. I chase it down. Like I'm always hungry for vitamins. So I always have it like. When my hair's flopping down, it looks a little blondish, but this beard is psychotically red. And
hey, listen,
I was always known as strawberry.
Strawberry. Well, you just said chasing vitamins. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to say something you might not have known. Did you know redheads produce their own very healthy source of vitamin D?
What?
I know, because I feel like I'm lacking all the time.
Really?
It's true. That's a true story. We found this out on this podcast.
Because what is it? We have a lack of carotene, or we have too much carotene? There's something like that. I remember reading that at one point.
I feel like because we're so red, it would be too much carotene.
Yeah, I think it's too much carotene. So
We're
maybe
gonna
that's
both
what
write
it
this
is.
down.
I'm gonna
Maybe
Google
that's
it.
what it is.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to stay away from the sun. God forbid. That's it. We must produce our own unique form of. I don't know.
Your
that's what
version of getting vitamin D could very well be getting into a bedroom that has total blackout curtains, and you're getting vitamin D as you're sleeping. Like, you're set, man.
That's
I
so
don't
funny.
think so.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that with the just thinking of everybody that we have interviewed in the past, I think most of us have been sun worshippers.
Yeah,
It's true
maybe
stuff.
so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we know we're supposed to hate it, but we just
Yeah.
can't stop.
That's
Maybe,
it.
Yeah. It's
maybe
funny,
we've got
you're right.
addiction problems. I'm not sure. But
I'd say so too. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's all that. I think that because a redhead is given many red buttons when they are young, like stay out of the sun,
don't
Yeah,
wear
my
red
mother
or
always,
don't wear
my
pink.
mother was always like, she tanned forever because it was like when 70s, 80s sort of style. So by the time I was like a teenager, she was always just wearing giant sunglasses all the time and really sun conscious. She's like, you shouldn't tan, And I would always remember her just being inside, being like, make sure you put some sunscreen on. You're like, mother, like, I feel like I'm talking to the fly. Please take the shades off, Jack Nicholson. But, there was that whole thing of like, stay away from the sun, stay away from the sun, all of us heard it, the big red button, stay away from the sun. You must hate the sun, where it's like, I'm sure a lot of us are like, I will prove this world wrong. I will face this challenge. And some
Superheroes.
people, end up with no face after that challenge, but some of us are lucky enough to,
Good point. Yeah.
avoid all the sunspots.
That went dark real fast.
Yeah.
That's
Real
how it
fast.
works. Well, you know what I mean? I've met those old redheads that are just like skin tags that are just like, I used to be a redhead too. Just 3rd-degree burns all over their eyes and cheeks. You're like, I'm sure you did, sir. Now,
Yeah.
back to the burn ward for you.
Yikes. Oh Lord. Okay, Colin, before we let you go, where
Yes.
can people find out more about you? Website, social medias to follow?
My music. Yeah. Look up Elastic Stars. You can find that obviously YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, anywhere you like to look or whatever. I'm not really a TikToker. I've got a fake thing on TikTok that I'm not telling anybody about. And then, look up Destroyer, and then Colin Cowan. I'll have a special I'm going to put on YouTube at the end of 2023, and I'm going to be recording a little EP for stand-up, as well as new albums coming out under Elastic Stars.
Awesome. And the current one on Elastic Stars is called Musique. Is that correct?
Music, yeah, exactly.
Music.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was
you can
French.
call it, now you can pronounce it however you want. Exactly. That's why I did it that way. Thank you for reading. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the most current one. There's a new one coming out called Hobbyist soon.
Oh, cool.
That's
Are you a hobbyist?
awesome. Are you a hobbyist? Do you
What's
think
your
he's
hobby?
got times for
Yeah.
hobbies?
That's it. Well, that's it. It's it's about an alter ego version of myself that is just the most exaggerated version, which I deemed as being a full-time hobbyist.
Yeah. That's right.
Sometimes you get paid for it.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. And for anybody that's listening locally in the greater Moncton, Nova Scotia area, if you wanted to make the Hubcap Comedy Festival, Colin's first show is Thursday, February the 2nd, 7 p.m. at the Salisbury Lions Club. And like you said, that's one of 6. However, at least one of your shows is already sold out. So
Yeah,
that
I've
leaves
heard,
us
yeah,
down
yeah.
1 to 5. So,
That's right. You got
Yeah.
5 more chances.
So you can get details about Colin there too at hubcapcomedyfestival.ca.
Awesome. And we've heard it all, Colin. I'm sure there's much more, but we've heard it all. I feel like I've heard it all. Like, you're an amazing cat. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Oh,
This has been
thanks
really
so
super
much.
fun. We learned about cinnamon. We learned about, by the way, ask Tosh if she likes cinnamon.
Yeah, do you like cinnamon?
I'm allergic,
Oh, I'm so
I know,
sorry to
see?
hear that.
but I will take the name.
It's nice, isn't it?
I will
Isn't
take
It is
that.
nice.
Yeah.
I
It's
might
even
have to
nicer
reference-
even nicer in Spanish.
Oh
Canela.
my gosh. Yeah. I like
Canela.
that a lot.
Yeah.
That's a
Would
new
that
one.
be spelled Canela, by the way?
I
Isn't
believe
that
it's
how we-
Cannelle. Am I wrong about that? Look that up. I
Oh,
think that's
man.
it. There's a-
Canela.
There's a famous Mexican boxer who's a redhead, and his name is Canela.
Oh, I'll be looking them up.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get them on the show next.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
Jeez.
God. Yeah, he'd be amazing.
That's awesome. Well, Colin, thank you so much for coming on board here for the first episode of 2023. We're super excited to have you here, and good luck with all the shows coming up. And when you get back down to Halifax, look me up. Let's go for coffee.
I'd love to. Thanks. I'll take you up on that for sure, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Authentic Ginger Podcast.
Become a part of the Ginger Nation by liking, subscribing, following, and leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This podcast was produced by Tosh Taylor of the Podcast Hub Productions. Find her online at podcasthub.ca.